trust me, Shiki and gang, you don't have to worry about that ominous, real dangerous threat over there known as the Time Eater. Nah, that's something that we should just kind of just ignore for a little bit, even though it's something that this on literal space-time continuum and could be a huge disaster for a lot of lives. But no, we're not at that point yet. Let's just ignore that little thing, because oh boy, when they were discussing some of the, I would like to call them space-time continuum loopholes, is the best way to describe them, because there's a lot to be said about Weiss and what's going to be going on with especially the next arc of this series. So we actually got a really nice color page for this one with you can see this one, like a bunch of the gang, like you see like Shiki's still got those goggles on. Yeah, actually, surprisingly enough, like the one I was going to check by, I was like, oh, the bunny girl's like there again. I thought like, oh, I thought she was just going to be a character that appeared like maybe once, and that was around about it. But especially with this chapter, it was like, no, it seems like we might see her a few times every now and then, for the most part. I'm like, oh, okay then. And like, you finally get to see what Pino's kind of like color design is from this one, and there's this really nice one of like them using this robot and like Rebecca using like this like cool new suit. However, though, when we get to the chapter and like Weiss is like talking about like, hey, hand over your ship, and so I'll make it fly and I'll make you get out of here and all that. Like, only if by that will I actually like accept this entire little scenario that you guys are talking about. And Shiki's like, no, screw it and all that. It's like, you know, like, why not and all that. Like, and Rebecca's like, no, that's crazy. This is my ship. Like, if you don't do anything and all that, you end up the same way as us, so you're gonna be screwed. He's like, I'll be fine somehow. I have ID. You guys don't have the other way to explain this, and plus I have friends down there, so I can explain this shit. And it's like, we kind of need to do something right now, and Shiki's just like, sure, just have the ship. And he's like, look, no, you can't, like, this is not your ship, how could you? And it's like, she's trying to explain, look, we're getting a better ship later anyway, we need to go see Mother though, don't we? And like, Weiss like kind of gets a little bit confused by that. It's like, wait, what? Like, were these people serious about this? Like, they want to take it? And it's like, look, either way, we need you to take us to Blue Garden, okay? So he's like, I don't know about that, but let's try and pull something on there, because I'm the captain now of this ship. As you start seeing his arms start to glow, and a similar ether gear starts going around from what Shiki had. So it's like, he also as well had the ether gear, and it would make sense that he would know a lot about that. So we now know what his kind of ability is that he can do. As like, we see him like using this fixing the ship like on the run, like he was doing all this like crazy shit where he's like upgrading the OS to it, like the furnaces, like he was upgrading the engines on there, and he's just like, his whole thing is to remodel machines in real time, and it's just like, he was able to blast the ship, fix it up, and make them get out of orbit. And he was like, this is an ether gear designed to remodel machines, and it's known as Machina Maker. And that is where they're kind of implying, where it's like, wait, so is that how we fix up Happy Youthful? Is this as how like he was putting out there? And he's like, well, it was 50 years in the future, so most likely I was able to do something like that. However, though, it's like, to repay back the Theta and all that, like as a service, they were actually able to like heal like Pino's leg as well, which she kind of looked a little bit freaked out about, that having her leg back. And so, seemingly near just out of thin air, he's able to produce this. I would like to see a little bit more exactly what he can do with this ability. Like, it's clearly seems like metal and any kind of parts of the machine base he is able to convert into something else. So I imagine he would be able to like use like parts of the ship and turn it into a gun, or like he could actually rearrange a lot of the stuff into a ship. So seems like that's going to like help quite a lot if they're going to keep him around as a captain. It's like, you might want to keep this dude around. He seems quite like useful on that. And he's like, oh, like that sounds like a really great power to have for the most part as they go back to space. And then we get to old Professor. So considering this is so fucking confusing that we got two characters named Weiss, and it's just like, oh, it's Professor Weiss, and he's like, wait, me? So we're going to be referring to him as Professor, and when we talk about Weiss, we're going to be talking about young Weiss for the most part. And he's just like, look, and all that. You guys read the news about this, anything on that? And he's just like, look, you guys went to Norma, right? You really shouldn't have done that, like, and all that. That planet's been given a travel and entry ban. Like, you can't go there. And he's like, but I'm glad you were able to make it back, but what's happening? Like, I mean, why is the professor from the future? And he's like, you're not in the future. You're in the present right now. You made it back to the present somehow. As long as you're on Norma, you'll be in the past. You know about the time slip, right? And it's like, wait, what? Like, so seemingly they've gone, the wormhole or something, how they entered is only thoroughly connected to the planet Norma, and it's just like, what you experienced out there was not a time slip, put it in all that is another timeline in space. And what happened is that apparently you went to a star system where time itself got stolen as some seemingly monster took 50 years of time from this place. And you see this horrific serpent thing with this core like around it, and it is called the Time Eater. And I'm like, right, that is fucking horrifying. Like, let's just ignore that giant serpent black hole over there. And it's just like, no matter what happens and all that, a star that's been affected by Time Eater will have their time rewinded. There's no way to undo this, as it's probably become one with like this Time Eater, and it just becomes a reality where Norma is 50 years back in space. So there is like a bunch of people fled from this area, and it's just like, yeah, that's why there's an entry ban, because you really shouldn't be in there. And he's like, then how are you, Professor, out there? Like, what the hell and all that? It's like Norma don't exist. And you see him, and he's like, I fled with a bunch of people, myself included, and I was like, I fancy going to an adventure. And you see there's that bunny girl with him like that on his arm. I'm like, man, fucking, why'd you pull? You pulled him on there? I didn't know he was into the fairy girls, so I ain't judging, but like, she is super into that, and I think as well that they kept up all these years, and I was like, oh, well, that's a nice little thing I see from there. And he's just like, oh yeah, like, one thing to notice as well, like, as they were saying about the little android girl, I was like, it's like, oh, that's you. I fixed you up, huh? And it's like, that was that broken android. And he's like, are you my master? And it's like, your memory was wiped, and I did a little repair on you. And it's like someone like saying that your master was the Demon King, and yeah, that's Shiki's grandpa. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, what's going on? Another thing. And he's like, yeah, another problem to point out on there is that hunk over there. That's me in it. Like, and it's like, normal. Like, again, because I'm thinking of time travel. Like, their way of time travel is fucking madness. Like, there's no other way to describe, like, how Eden Zero is describing it, whereas, like, it is literally, when that girl said, don't worry about it, this is their own way of saying, don't worry about it. Like, but we're getting introduced to something that can steal time, however, it still results in, like, planets being completely dead for the most part. So this is the way I explain where, like, Elsie Crimson, when she was saying that planet star is already dead for the most part, she was referring to the fact that seemingly that no one can ever go to that planet ever again. So the fact that is like, if you do, I consider this thinking it a lot like Sin from Final Fantasy X, where it's like, fucking Sin is coming, get out now, you need to flee. There is no hope from all that, unless like someone does a summoning or something, or somehow changes its course. There is no way to pull back and defeat Sin anytime. Like, that's kind of how I'm thinking about it. And it's like those stars that like who are eaten by this Time Eater though create a new reality. Therefore, don't worry about a time paradox at the moment. So the fact that Weiss is here and like the older version of me, it's like just don't worry about it for the most part. He's saying the past doesn't affect the future. And I'm like, are you sure about that? It's like, we can see this being fucked up the more with this creature, and he's just like, the normal wasn't the past, but a present that had its time stolen. So whatever you do in normal, or whatever the young me does from now on, won't like affect me in like current and the slightest and all that. And it's like, as he's like there, just like holding down his girl like that, and he's like, yeah, flirting down on that. And he's just like, we're both wise and all that, and both histories are now become correct due to this fact, and this is going to be a big disaster regardless and all that by creating, forming the two histories to one together. So we could have a potential area where a lot of really fucked up things could happen, where you'll be able to like, you need to live long lives, but you know, you're your own person, but just, you know, don't do the same mistakes I did, alright? Like, well, was it good? Then the chapter ends as we get one to a space pirate, as we see Elsie is there. and she has already caught the ship in a little kind of like little transmutation, little spell like area, and just grabbed them. And now we got to deal with Elsie and their pirates now, since they can't catch a fucking break at the moment for where they are. So let's deal with female like Captain Harlock right now, because a ship literally looks like it belongs on Space Captain Harlock. So this was a confusing chapter to say the least, where again they did mention this beforehand, where it's like, don't think about time travel, don't worry about it. It is generally like, again, it annoys me with that fact, because I am a big fan of, like, I do, like, again, time travel plots are normally the most dangerous things to handle, because you can just like make so many fucking giant plot holes. You can like, it pretty much should always be used as a storyline, not as a main thing. And I think generally after this they want to kind of escape from this kind of like blah blah. It is generally setting up though that there are going to be more events like this, or we are going to be addressing the Time Eater sometime way in the future. But the fact that there's some deity entity like just roaming around, just devouring like stars and just anything that sees in the path, and the fact that you can have a scenario where your past self and your future self is there, but since he pretty much eats the contradiction inside the actual space-time continuum, it's the fact that it somehow works itself out for the most part. Like, again, you just can't, you have to still think about it. This is in a magazine that is meant for more like younger like audience, the teenagers and stuff like that. It is like, yeah, not thinking full outside the box on there. We're not thinking like Steins Gate. We're not thinking like fully to go out and explore, which again, that does take me out a little bit from there. But and I'm a little bit where it's like, if you're going to introduce time travel and then come all the way saying don't worry about it, then shouldn't really, you're going to introduce it in the first place. But I will say it can create some very interesting scenarios for like the future. I am very much curious to see like where this Time Eater thing can go, because potentially we're not done. We've got another hinting as well, the fact that the Demon King as well is something that made Pino in the first place. It's also as well has something to do with Shiki, so it's important for those two to kind of like stay around and stick together. And now the fact that we got to see what Elsie exactly wants from these people. So Chapter 11 was definitely a very weird one to say the least, with how it's going to be going down in the future. So I'm very curious to see what you guys think in the comment section down below, what you thought about this chapter at Eden's Era. Definitely a very weird one, and seeing where Chapter 12 is going to be taking us. But that is all for me. Thank you as always for watching, and I'll see you guys, though, next time.